This is the first writing vlog I have done for a really long time, and I'm kind of excited to get back into it. I haven't had time to sit down and like work intensively on another project until now. It was just taking me a little while as well to figure out which one I wanted to work on next and which one was ready to work on next. And I have finally figured out what my next project is going to be. That is Project Dead in the Water. I generally believe that name is destiny, but I hope in this instance that it is not. But I came to this working title, it will probably not actually be named this, because it is a little bit of an ironic reference to something that I think will happen in the book that I just personally find very amusing and brings me a lot of joy. Project Dead in the Water is going to be following 4 friends who go and stay in a really isolated cabin that is boat-only access in the Pacific Northwest, heavily inspired by where I grew up. So the goal for me for this vlog is to kind of get myself to the point where I am prepared enough to start my zero draft. For that to happen, I feel like I need 3 main things. First is that I'm wanting to flesh out the external plot and external conflict that's going on. I have a really strong sense, I think, of the internal conflict, and I know kind of what's going to happen roughly, and I know how it ends, which is the key thing for me, but I need to kind of spend a bit of time thinking about the escalation and do a little bit of research as well. The other thing that I really would like to do for this book is to write the pitch before I start writing the book. I wish I had done this for Project Calabasas, but with that book, I had this kind of feeling that I'm not gonna have any other time in my life to write a novel, so I need to just sit down and like write it and do it. But I think that having that pitch and a really solid idea of the core beats, the core conflict, characters, and how those interact would have really helped me in terms of the editing process. So that is definitely going to be one of the things that we do in this vlog. And then finally, I do want to have a bit of time to play around with the voice and just the overall vibe of the book. That's the goal of the vlog, and we'll just see how that all goes. Unfortunately, when I was working at the library, I started to feel a bit of a cold coming on, and it really wasn't very productive. So I went home and ended up spending a lot of the rest of the weekend in bed, wallowing in self-pity and reading a book. This is the shit. If you are grievously ill and on the brink of death, my strategy is always to burn the illness out. So I'm eating Laksa, instant Laksa, because I don't want to go outside to buy the good shit. And just add as much sambal and chili as I possibly can tolerate. Okay, hello. We are totally overdue for another check-in, but before I get into my progress that I made so far on the writing front and my book, I wanted to tell you about what I was reading while I was completely down. I was very lucky to get an arc of Local Heavens. This is a book that's coming out in October 14. Okay. This is written by Chris. She is also on YouTube and documents her writing journey through writing Local Heavens, getting an agent, querying. If you like writing vlogs, I really recommend that you check it out. Hi, would you like to contribute to this situation? Okay. I'm loving it. I'm loving it so much. So it's a pretty like literary leaning retelling of The Great Gatsby, but what makes it sort of exciting is that it is queer and it's also cyberpunk, like as in the video game. It has a very video game-esque feel to certain moments of it, but her writing is also just, I mean, it's literary quality. It's stunning. And because I've been watching her videos for quite some time, it's so cool to see all of her hard work pay off and be able to like hold the final product in my hand. So as with the original Great Gatsby, we're following Nick Carraway. He is a cyberspace hacker who is investigating Jay Gatsby. Are you trying to get away? And he's also Filipino American, so there's these little bits of Tagalog and like Filipino culture that are included into this story, and I'm just enjoying like the depth that has been brought to what was already a fantastic story. It's so good. Like I really, this is not a very useful sort of review so far. I mean, I'm not finished. I will talk about it in my wrap-up video, which is coming next week in a little bit more depth, but I'm enjoying it so much, and I hope that everybody adds it to their TBR because this is probably the best retelling of a classic that I've ever read. God, I sound like a frog, sorry. I also picked up Our Wives Under the Sea. This has been on my TBR forever, but the reason that I picked this up, also it's blurbed by Florence Welch, which is kind of all the information you need, one of her favorite writers. Hello. As I'm working on my own novel and developing it, that process for me is also reading other books that feel like they're in the same genre as what I am trying to write, or at least genre adjacent. And Our Wives Under the Sea I've heard referred to as a horror. It seems quite literary. The deep sea is a haunted house, a place in which things that ought not to exist move about in the darkness. Unstill is the word Leah uses, tilting her head to the side, as if in answer to some sound. Though the evening is quiet, the dry hum of the road outside the window, and little to draw the ear besides. I don't know if I'm bringing academia into these writing vlogs too much, but that is where most of my writing experience is. And in academia, before you start a research paper, you talk about the research that has already been done in that area, which requires a huge amount of reading and research in your area of research. And you always end that first section, the literature review, with sort of a paragraph or so that identifies the existing research. And I think of writing in a similar way, like not necessarily that you should be writing to market, because I feel like that is a very different thing than being aware of the gaps that your book fills. Where can you subvert? Where can you do something that is interesting that hasn't been done before? Because at least for me as a writer, that is where a lot of the fun comes in. Like, how can I play with existing literary structures and traditions in a way that is unexpected? So before this little section of chatting gets too long, I've started to outline my project on a spreadsheet like I did in one of my last revision videos. I will include that somewhere around here for you to check out if you're interested. But I basically have a spreadsheet and like the beats and character development moments so that I can track when I sit down to write a scene. What are all of the goals or the things that I want to happen in this scene? How does that contribute to each individual character's development? And like, what are the other Easter eggs or things that should be in that scene for me to include? And I just find that that is a really helpful way for me to visualize what I'm doing. And it also helps me identify like what are the areas that I still need to think a little deeper about and fill in. So that's just what I'm going to be doing for the rest of today. Mr. Kitty is guarding the remote to make sure that I don't get distracted by watching television. So that spreadsheet came together really fast. There's still some pretty big holes in terms of plot and like exactly what's going to happen in every single scene. I don't feel the need to outline to a super granular level because some of that is fun for me. As long as I know roughly what's supposed to happen where, that's usually enough for the first draft. And so I still have a bit of time left for filming and working today, and I thought that this might be a really good time to answer some of the questions that I got on my last writing blog eons ago related to my creative process and inspiration and developing ideas. Let's do some of those. The very first question is, I'm curious how you balance your creative hobbies with writing. So this is referring to some of my other crafty hobbies that I have that I've shown in some of my writing vlogs, like sewing. Like I made this shirt, I make most of my own clothes. I just craft as the spirit moves me. But writing, I will do it even when I'm having a bad or hard day. It's just a matter of discipline because it's an area I'm really intentional about wanting to grow and to improve it. Did you brainstorm your novel while sewing or listening to music / an audiobook? I tend to do brainstorming when I'm listening to music. I like to just go for a walk. I feel like physical movement really facilitates my thinking process. Like whenever I'm stuck on a scene or I'm just not really feeling inspired, I will go for even just a 20-minute walk outside and listen to a song that is related to a character or a scene or just even the themes or the overall mood or energy or tone of the book that I'm going for. I have a playlist for every book that tends to go through as many revisions as my actual novel does. But honestly, a lot of my brainstorming is sitting down, thinking about the characters, sometimes just blind writing out every possible solution or way that something could go without filtering myself too much. A lot of my ideas tend to have a really long gestation time. Like I had the idea initially for Project Dead in the Water at the beginning of 2020. In that time period, what I kind of do is, like, I'm always thinking about stories, and when I have an idea or I read an article or anything that feels like it might be relevant, I have like a dump file in my Notion where I just have thousands of words of like snippets of dialogue, character ideas, setting ideas, whatever. And then when I feel like I have enough material to write the story somewhere in that dump file, then I will start actively shaping it into a narrative. The other question that I have is, do you like to completely unplug from your story when you're not actively writing it? I like to, but whether or not I actually do that or I can even do that is a totally different question. And I feel like this is actually partly why I like to have a job that is not writing. Like I don't necessarily want to have a full-time career as a writer just because I need that unplugged time, because I feel like I have the big breakthroughs when I have taken a break from my novel, whether it is overnight or for a couple of months. That's when I start to be able to see my story in a different way. But that's something that takes a lot of discipline and effort for me to like take myself out of the story enough to be able to have any kind of insight. So yeah, I hope those kind of answered some of your questions. And if you have any more, I'm always happy to answer them. Just leave them down in the comments. Thank you very much. It's not even monsoon season, but it's just pouring out there. But tomorrow I am probably gonna sit down and finally write out the pitch. So I will see you again tomorrow. I always find writing pitches really difficult, which is why I didn't do it for my last novel or the novel before that either, for a couple of reasons. Because you have to sort of market your book, but you also have to be able to zoom out from all the granular things that you're usually thinking about, especially me in this vlog today and yesterday and whatever. Because I've been working on plotting, I've been like organizing all the characters' arcs, I've been looking at the more granular details. But when you're writing a pitch, you have to be able to zoom out and say like, okay, what is the relationship? Mosquito. What is the relationship between all of these characters? What is the through line that connects them? What is the book about? What is the story, the arc, the problem, the conflict of the book? And yeah, that premise and that process of articulating those details is really challenging for me, because I think of like all of the other cool things where I'm like, oh, but also this, but no, maybe they don't need to know that right now. They get to discover that in the first few pages, or like that might be something I include in a summary if I'm sending it out to like an agent or something. Not everything needs to be in the pitch. Not everything should be in the pitch. Like bare bones here, Stephanie. Bare bones. Focus. Okay, I'm now super excited, and I wish that I had done this for my last novel so badly, because I feel like it helped me figure out this needs to happen. If this doesn't need to happen, then that. It's really hard for me to get into the mindset where I can just channel the movie trailer voice, like, or friends, you know, whatever. But like, I can just hear it. I can hear it. I can see it very clearly now in my head. I think I even figured out what some of those. Oh my god, why? Got him. So it's been raining like crazy. I don't know how many times I've said that, and so we have tons and tons of mosquitoes, and I'm killing them very successfully. But I think that I even filled in some of those like gaps and holes where I was sort of like, some kind of tension needs to happen here between the characters, but I couldn't figure out what that external driving plot was the thing that I needed to figure out in this video before I could really go forward with this story. And even though I kind of had like an inkling of what it would look like, I think I just figured out what exactly it is and how it's going to play out in the book. Magic witch fingers. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I will probably end the video around here, but I do think that I will continue to do a bit of tweaking to various things, a little bit more world building maybe, but I feel pretty well prepared at this point to begin my fast drafting. So thank you for watching the video, and I just feel like really excited, and I just wish you the best of luck with any of your writing projects if you've got anything like that going on. And yeah, I will see you again very soon, probably with a drafting video. Bye.